All right, Howie Klein, founder, treasurer of the Blue America PAC. He writes over at Down with Tyranny. Everybody should go to Down with Tyranny. You put yourself on the line the night before the midterms on this show. We went through several swing races, some key races that you said the Cook report may have gotten wrong, and you're on record. How do you think you did? I'm going to hold you accountable. We're going to go over all these races, see what you got right, see what you got wrong. How do you feel you did before we look at the math?
As some of the results were coming in, I thought I did very well. Now remember, we're comparing my predictions to the Cook predictions. That was so. The definition of well is that I got it right, they got it wrong. Although I noticed that when they predicted a Democrat was going to win, often I said, no, that's not going to happen. So anyway, so they were right in a couple of races, like in Ohio's first district. I thought that the Republican incumbent would win, and they said he would lose, and they were right, and I was wrong.
Okay, so in the big picture,
the races, by the way, we agreed on. So, in other words, most of the things that they predicted, we both agreed. But in the cases where they said a Republican was going to win, I said a Democrat would win, I won there.
Right.
So, just as an example, in Maine's second district, Blue Dog Jared Golden, who I don't like, they said he would lose. I said he would win, and he won.
Right.
Elisa Slotkin, a New Dem in Michigan, they said she would lose. I said she would win, and she won. Angie Craig, another Blue Dog from Minnesota, they said she would lose. I said she would win. She won. So in other words, when they said a Democrat would lose, and I said a Republican would lose, I tended to be right. They tended to be wrong.
Right.
And if you want to go through all of them, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. Let me point out that what you got right on a macro level is you've been saying all along that the Democrats would keep the Senate. You said you at first thought the Democrats would keep the House. A week ago tonight, you were not
to keep the House. I never thought that they would keep the House. I thought they had a shot, which turned out to be true. They had a shot.
And they are losing that shot. But you got that right. And you also said it was going to be whoever wins the House, it would be on a razor-thin margin. Neither party would be able to.
That is definitely the case now. In fact, some of these seats that we're going to talk about now are still not decided.
Okay.
Now, some of them aren't decided, but they're going to be decided easily, and some of them are actual, real, really. We'll be counting for weeks before they can announce with any kind of confidence.
Let me just ask you some big picture questions before we drill down.
I'm so excited about drilling down.
I know. But Carrie Lake in Arizona, is she?
Yes, she's going to lose. It's too early to tell. I don't know where all those votes that are still outstanding are coming from, but as the votes have been coming in so far, they have been putting her further behind. But it's still very, very close. No one can be certain what's going to happen there. If I was forced to bet, if I was absolutely forced to bet, I say that Hobbs wins by 300 votes. It's going to be that close.
Right. I mean, I think most of the votes are coming in from Maricopa, and that's predominantly Hobbs country. So she should. Well,
the city of Phoenix is, but the suburbs of Maricopa are not, and in Maricopa County are not necessarily Democratic. So it's hard to say. Last night, I think it was last night, a whole bunch of votes came in, and it pushed Dobbs ahead. But on the other hand, a congressional seat in that district, which still isn't called yet, which is held by a Republican, David Schweikert, that's in the suburbs, and the same votes pushed him ahead, where he's now leading the Democrat who's been leading since day one.
Okay.
So it's hard to get a grip on what's going on in Arizona.
Lauren Boebert in Colorado 3. Are we looking at a recount? What are we looking at there?
Definitely looking at a recount. It's too close to call. She's ahead. Now, they predicted that she would win. I think I agreed with them on that one. Yeah, I did. I agreed with her that she would win, and I think she's going to win. Nobody has imagined it would be this close.
Right. And
She's
finally,
already screaming that they tried to steal the race.
right. And before we start drilling down, how much trouble is Trump in? What is the likelihood that DeSantis, who is now leading him in the polls, is going to declare one poll? Is Trump declaring this week? And
Tomorrow.
And do people fall in line? How terrified are they of Trump? Or are they less terrified today?
We'll and sit there and watch with great joy.
I'm sorry?
I said we'll get the popcorn and we'll sit and watch with great joy as he tears his opponents apart.
Right.
I mean, the Democratic Party must be, to use a phrase, quelling over this. He is going to do everything he can to destroy DeSantis and then anyone else who tries to run against him, and there will be others. I mean, certainly Mike Pence. He will go after Mike Pence. Did you see that interview that Pence did?
Yes. Very courageous man.
Well, I don't think Trump is going to stand for that. He'll go right after him.
And so it did seem to work. Sean Patrick Maloney, we'll get to him in a second, the head of the DCCC, was giving money to the MAGA candidates. Did that work? And if it worked, should we be then rooting for Trump to get the Republican nomination again?
It's very dangerous. I think they worked. It worked in some cases and not in others. The one everybody is talking about now is Washington 3, where it did work. Now, I'll bring up that Washington 3, which is in the southwestern part of the state, it's called Vantucky. The reason it's called Vantucky by people who live in Portland, it's right over the bridge from Portland. So a lot of people in Portland work there, and people from there work in Portland. So it's like, even though Portland is a heavily Democratic city, and they make fun of Vancouver, which is the only real city in that district, and so they call it Vantucky. But as it turns out, that county, Clark County, which has more than double the rest of the district together in terms of voters, that county went heavily for the Democrat and against Joe Kent. Joe Kent beat the mainstream Republican conservative incumbent, Jamie Herrera Beutler. So Kent was a Trump person who went after Jamie. Jamie was just a regular, conservative Republican, not a fascist. She voted to impeach Trump. So Trump encouraged this Joe Kent, who's really, was maybe the most conservative, not conservative, the most fascist, or if he wasn't the most fascist, he was one of the 5 most fascist Republicans to run. Now, nobody assumed that she was going to beat him. Everyone assumed otherwise. In fact, she's not even on Cook's list of toss-up districts. It wasn't considered a toss-up district. It was considered a Republican win. And yet the race was called for her. So there's an instance where the Democrats wanted him to win the primary against a mainstream Republican. He did win, and then he got taken out by a fairly progressive Democrat. She's not a progressive across the board, but her instincts are progressive. So a lot is going to depend on who gets to her first. If the conservative Democrats get to her first and talk her into being a conservative, then we're in trouble. But I alerted several progressive Democrats to get to her. I just got a message from one of them that he did, and let's hope for the best. She's up for grabs.
When you're counting the beans, was it a smart move for the Democrats to put their money into these MAGA candidates overall?
In some cases, I don't know. I don't know overall. And some of the races aren't decided yet, in fact. But in that particular race that I was just talking about, it was smart. In New Hampshire, it was smart, where the 2 Democrats won against crazy extremist candidates. Mm-hmm. So I mean, it may have in terms of counting the beans, maybe it worked.
Okay. And I have a civics question that I've been meaning to ask you. When the Democrats kept the Senate, we all celebrated because it meant that Biden could appoint more judges. If you have to choose between the House and the Senate, having one House, I always thought you want the House of Representatives. They control the purse strings. The Senate.
Well, I don't know if they control the purse strings, and that's an old thing that we learned in school.
Right.
The fact of the matter is that there's nothing that goes through the House that doesn't have to pass the Senate also.
So is the Senate, in the end, is the Senate more important to have than the House?
And yes, because there's nothing that the House can do except its own internal rules that doesn't have to go through the Senate, whereas the Senate doesn't need the House at all on several important things, one having to do with treaties and the other having to do with appointments.
Interesting.
So, yeah, I mean, so they're both really important. The Senate is those two instances more important.
Yeah, and you can end up controlling the Supreme Court ultimately if you can control the Senate.
Yes, well, let's hope, a bunch of Republicans on the Supreme go to heaven.
Yeah, or God does his patriotic duty. Okay, great. Let's drill down now. Sean Patrick Maloney.
Was not on the list.
Right.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. He was on the list. And they predicted that he would win.
By 3 points. Yeah.
And he lost, but I can't take any credit there because I agreed with them that he was going to win. I didn't think the Republican beat him.
How horrible.
So here we were both wrong on that one.
He was the head of the DCCC. It was his job.
Yes, and a very bad head of the DCCC. To be fair, they're all bad, but he's particularly terrible. He's as bad as they come.
And was he targeted by the Republicans, or did he just target himself?
No, he was very heavily targeted. They spent an enormous amount of money. The guy he ran against, the state legislator named Lawler, didn't have any money, and Maloney, who's a crook, had tons of money. But Kevin McCarthy came in there with and evened it out a bit with a few $1 million running ads against him, basically saying, nonsense that wasn't true. There's a lot of bad things you can say about Sean Patrick Maloney, but those things describe a Republican. So McCarthy couldn't use those things. So instead, he just made stuff up, like Sean Patrick Maloney is, a socialist, and Sean Patrick Maloney is,
we should be
favor of crime.
Right.
Just nonsense stuff.
Okay,
but it worked. It worked.
Okay, let's do the audit here. Let me go over your predictions. Let's start with the blue candidates. Let's start with, you mentioned Kim Schreier, Washington 8. Cook said that she would lose.
She was going to lose. And I was absolutely certain that she was going to win, and she won. And she won without, breaking a sweat.
Right. Okay. Do I have a sound effect here? Hang on. Here. That's all I've got. I should have done a better job. I'm sorry. Hang on. Let me. Yeah. Okay. We'll go with that sound effect. Abigail Spanberger from Virginia 7. They said.
Right. So we both agreed that she was going to win the seat. The reason that, I don't know what their reason was, but my reason was is that there were more Democrats in the district than Republicans. And she was running I don't like her. She's a blue dog, but she was running a competent campaign. And the Democratic Party spent a fortune on her. They put in millions of dollars into her race, and they didn't allow the Republicans to spend more than they did. Every time the Republicans spent, the Democrats put in more. They were determined to save her. Now, interestingly enough, another Democrat who we supported, who they said had no chance, a guy named Jones. Well, I can't remember his first name now. And Jones got more votes than she did. The Democratic Party spent $7 million on her, and they spent zero on him. They didn't give him a penny, and he got more votes than she did. So imagine if they would have actually supported him.
Okay.
Anyway, in the case of Elaine Luria,
yes,
they and I both agreed that she would lose, and she did.
Yes, and we wanted her to win, obviously. Let's
We wanted her to win because we want the Democrats to beat the Republicans in an overall way. But she wasn't a good congressperson. She was a very conservative and very scared, and never did anything right.
Okay.
So
Texas 34, Flores versus Gonzalez. They said,
and
go ahead.
We both said the same thing, that the Democrat would win, and he did.
Okay.
So the thing about her, Flores, is that she was an incumbent. It was an incumbent versus incumbent race. He moved into her district, but it was part of his district, and she had just been elected in the special election. But she was a pretty extreme Trumpist, and he's a very conservative blue dog Democrat. But he was able to overcome her. And it's again way more Democrats in the district than Republicans. So he was able to win.
Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island's second district, they came up with some cockamamie idea that the Republican was going to win. It made no sense whatsoever to me. There was no reason to do that. And I said,
right?
No, the Republican will lose and the Democrat would win. And sure enough, the Democrat won.
Okay. The open seat left by Connor Lamb, they said was going to stay Democrat.
Right, and so did I. So we both agreed on that.
So far, you're batting.
We agreed. Not only did we agree, but we both spent money in that district. Blue America spent money, and the DCCC spent money to help the Democrat there.
Great. Matt Cartwright in Pennsylvania 8. They said he would go
Very
down.
old. He's an old friend of mine. When he ran the first time against the Blue Dog Democrat in a primary, we helped him. He was one of the first candidates that we spent really large sums of money on, and we did it again this time. And for some reason, I don't understand why, but because he's always been in a red district. When Trump runs, Trump wins his district. Both times Trump won the district, and both times Matt ran and Matt won anyway. So why would they think that Matt wouldn't beat the same kook who ran against him last time? But they said Matt would lose and that the Republican would win, and we said that Matt would win, and Matt did win. So play that little thing of yours. Thank you.
Yes. Susan Wild, Pennsylvania 7, they said this Democrat.
We were both wrong. Both Blue America and the DCCC thought she had no chance, and no one else thought she had any chance either. It was like that was like practically a written off district, and she wound up winning.
Okay.
So there were 4 seats in Pennsylvania that were in contention. The Democrats won all 4 of them.
Right. But so far, when you got something wrong, the Cook Report got something wrong as well. I'm just curious to see, you're outperforming the Cook Report so far.
Yeah, I think it's not all over yet though.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Right.
There's understandings.
Okay, let's go to the new Oregon 6.
I'll go through it and make a count. People have been asking me, people who listen to your show basically have been asking me, and I said, it's going to take me half an hour to figure it all out and get it all right and be sure it's right. So I don't want to do it now and then have to do it again after all the races are decided. So let's wait till all the races are decided.
Right. All right, Oregon 6. There was a new seat that they said was going to go Democrat. What did you say?
Right. I agreed that it would go Democrat, but it's not decided yet.
Okay.
Now, the Democrat there, Andrea Salinas, is leading. The thing about this that's interesting is that Hakeem Jeffries, who wants to be the new speaker, or if the Democrats take over, or the minority leader if the Democrats don't take over, and he was working with some really bad forces, including Sam Bankman-Fried, who's now on the lam and lost I don't know, what did he lose? $44 billion, $33 billion. He lost some immense amount of money. He's a cryptocurrency crook. But he put out a lot of ads against her and forced the DCCC to go along with him. And they spent $1 million, not specifically against her, but supporting the same candidate that Bankman-Fried supported instead of Andrea Salinas. And Andrea Salinas beat this clown. regardless, now Bankman-Fried spent, just him alone, spent $10 million trying to defeat her, including $1 million in very negative ads. That has hurt her in the general. Even though she won the primary, people remember those ads that Bankman-Fried paid for, and that the DCCC, and especially Hakeem Jeffries, went along with. So, people need to think about that when Hakeem Jeffries is running for speaker. He'll probably win. I mean, supposedly he has it locked up.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's Oregon 6.
Ohio 13 was an open seat. They said Ryan would be, the Democrat would be.
It was Ryan's seat.
Right.
But the seat was gerrymandered.
Right.
So that it wasn't very Democratic anymore. It's now an R+1 district. I couldn't imagine that the very progressive Democrat was going to win that seat. The against a Trump crazy. The Cook report, they got me on that one, so don't play the thing. They said the Democrat would win. I said the Republican would win. They were right. I was wrong.
But when you're wrong, it's still good. It's good for the Democrats.
Okay.
Good. Okay. So the Democrats kept a seat there. Steve Chabot.
No, it was a new district. They didn't pick up. They won a new district.
Right. Steve Chabot, Ohio 1, Republican. They said it was going to flip to a Democrat seat. What did you say? Hello?
Yes, I'm here. That was Roland calling me.
Okay. Tell him I said hello. So you said they said Steve Chabot, Republican, Ohio 1, would lose his seat to a Democrat. What happened?
Right. He did. They were right. I was wrong. So it's a Democratic-leaning district now. It's basically Cincinnati. So he got a really bad shake from the Republican legislature. I don't know why they did that to him, but the Republican legislature took a very Republican seat. He was very safe, and they made it into a D+2.
Great.
I thought he would win anyway, and the Cook report said they said it was a toss-up, but that the Democrat would win. Greg Landsman, and Landsman won. So I was wrong. They were right.
Twice. When you're wrong.
Yeah, in Ohio. Yes.
But when you're wrong, you're wrong. A Democrat wins instead of a Republican.
Happy way.
Yeah. Okay. North Carolina 13. There's a new seat. They said a Republican was going to win North Carolina 13.
And I did as well. We both agreed that Bo Hines was going to win, and everyone thought Bo Hines would win. It's a Republican-leaning district, and Hines was endorsed by Trump, and it was a big deal. And we were all wrong. The Democrat, this guy Wiley Nichols, won.
Great. That's good. Good. New York 22. Now these are some. This is going to be interesting. There's an open seat that in New York 22. Katko, I guess, is leaving, and
Katko's leaving, and two terrible candidates are running. The Democrat is awful, and the Republican is awful. And it's a Democratic-leaning district, less Democratic than it had been when Katko used to run there. But this Democrat Francis Cannone, a guy named Francis Cannone, is just a turd, and he's losing. It's not called yet. So, I mean, supposedly he could pull it out, but I don't see it. I don't see any chance of him winning. So, but in the case of me versus Cook, we both got that wrong.
Okay.
We both right. We both said the Republican would win, and the Republican is winning.
Great. No, not great. New York 19 is an open seat. They said it was probably going to be a Democrat. New York 19, Ryan's seat.
Yeah, we both agreed that Ryan would win, and he did.
He did win. Okay. Sorry, I thought that was an open seat.
It kind of was. It's hard to explain. Ryan was an incumbent in a different district.
Right.
And he moved in.
Yes, it's the first election after the census, and they read. Okay. New York 4, Rice, they said was going to win. New York 4, Democrat.
I agreed, and we were both wrong.
Okay. All right.
Well, so when people say there was no red wave, there was a red wave in Long Island and a red wave in Florida. That's when there was a red wave. So the Democrats lost every seat on Long Island, and they did really badly in Florida.
New York 3, Sweezy, did I pronounce that right? Democrat?
Suozzi ran for governor. In fact, I spoke to him today, but he ran for governor, and he lost that, and he left. So he left his congressional seat. There was a really, really good progressive running there. She would have won, but she got beaten in the primary by a nothing candidate, just a nothing, who had a bunch of money, and the nothing candidate lost to a Republican. And so Cook and Howie were both wrong. We both said the Democrat would win, and the Democrat lost.
Wow. Okay. New Mexico 2, Yvette Harrell, Republican. They said she would win.
We both said she would win, and she didn't. She lost to a Democrat. So very good news. No one really expected her to win, and she did.
That's really interesting.
Everyone expected her to win, and she lost. So we have a new Democrat in that district now.
Great. Chris Pappas in New Hampshire won. They said
They lose, and that was one where I beat them.
You got that right. He won. They said he was going to lose.
Yes.
Okay.
I said he would win by a couple points, and he did.
Nevada 3, Susie Lee, Democrat. They said it was going to go to the Republicans.
Right. A lot of people made that guess, including someone, and I mentioned this, someone who I really respect, John Ralston, who knows more about Nevada politics than any journalist who's writing. And he agreed with Cook that she was going to lose her seat. And I said, even though I really respect him, and even though I think his logic is pretty good, I still think she's going to win. And I was right, she won. So I took on Cook and someone who I really liked, John Ralston, who were all saying she was going to lose. I said she was going to win, and she won. So you could hit that thing twice.
There we go. I'll have better sound effects next week. Denatitis is a skin condition I came home from Hungary with 20 years ago. Denatitis. Nevada won.
And we all agreed that she was going to win, and she did.
Great. Don Bacon, Republican. Nebraska 2. They said he was going to.
We all agreed that he would win, and he did.
Okay. Angie Craig, you mentioned. Alyssa Slotkin, you mentioned. Jared Golden, you mentioned.
Well, I got it right, and they got it wrong.
Right. Yep. Indiana 1, Frank Mervin, Democrat. They said he was going to win. What did you say?
I said he was going to win too, but I didn't agree with them that it was a toss-up district. I thought he had it. They made a few mistakes by calling districts toss-ups and not calling other districts toss-ups. This was one that was not a toss-up district, and he won.
He did win.
So we were both right that he would win. Here they were wrong in Illinois 17, Cherry Busas's old seat, where they said the Republican would win. I said the Democrat would win, and I was right, and they were wrong. And so play that thing again.
There we go. Let's go to
And
Connecticut.
next comes at 5. Johanna Hayes is the incumbent Democrat.
Right.
I don't know why they said that she would win. It made no sense to me. I said that she would win. They said she would lose. I don't know why they said she would lose. It doesn't make sense. There's no way to think that she was going to lose. It didn't make any sense. And I said she would win. I was right. They were wrong. Play the thing.
Mike Levin in California 49. They said the Democrat incumbent would lose.
And I think they're wrong. It's not decided yet, but there hasn't been 1 second of counting when he wasn't ahead, and he's substantially ahead. And I would love to bet them right now that he's going to win, but they wouldn't take the bet. So call Mike a winner, call Cook a loser.
Katie Porter, Democrat.
We both agree that she would win.
Yes. Mike Garcia, California 27, Republican. They say he's going to win.
Yes, and they're right.
Okay.
I agreed with them.
And David Valadeo, California 22, Republican. They said he was going to go back.
So did I. And he is going to win, and they were right, unfortunately.
Okay, I'll save California 13 for last. Arizona 1, David Schweikert, Republican. They said he was going to win.
Yes, and I agreed, and we're both wrong. He is. Oh no, we're both right. He is going to win.
Okay,
It's not close. It's very, very close.
Okay, and finally, California 13. They said it was going to.
Harder is the Democrat. It's a Democratic district. It doesn't make sense to me that they would say a Republican's going to win that district. It just makes no sense. It also makes no sense to me that the AP hasn't called it yet. Harder is considerably ahead of the Republican. So anyway, you can play your tune. They're right. They're wrong enough.
The real winner last Tuesday, Howie Klein. You are. You got it's incredible what you got right. We'll get the final tally next week, but you did amazing.
Well, they got it that I got wrong, but you're just happy that I was wrong because in all those cases the Democrat won.
Right.
But I got more right than they did. I'm pretty sure that after the last few are called, it won't change.
This is why I love you. Other reasons, but this is really impressive. I'm going to let you go, but you did a great job last week setting the table for us, making the election returns enjoyable, especially when we're winning. You and Steve Kornacki. What do you think of, before you go, Steve Kornacki? Pretty impressive.
I don't know. No comment.
Okay.
He's better this year than he's been before.
I was impressed. Howie Klein, founder, treasurer of the Blue America PAC, endorsed his candidates. He knows who's going to win, who's going to lose, and he knows.
We don't endorse candidates on that. We endorse candidates based on how good they're going to be in Congress, not based on they're going to win or lose.
Right, exactly. And he knows which candidates are worth investing in, even if they're going to lose. They're still worth putting. Our friend Derek Marshall, I would assume, is not going to Washington.
No, he's not going to Washington as a congressman. He may be going to Washington in another capacity.
Right.
But he did not win, unfortunately.
But that
was that was a long shot, always a long shot.
And a great investment in our country's future. Thank you. Read Howie.
I like that idea.
Yes. Thank you, Howie. I'll talk to you next week. We'll get the final results next week. Thank you. Great job. Amazing. Amazing. Thank you.
But I can't hang up because my hands are full of vegan meatball.
And you're not cooking. That's a whole other story that we don't want to get into.
No, just in the last couple of minutes, I started just forming the vegan meatballs.
Okay, I'll hang up. Thank you, Howie.
Bye.
Bye-bye. That's Howie Klein from Down with Tyranny. Read him over at Down with Tyranny and give to his candidates. If you enjoyed this portion of the David Feldman Show, subscribe to the channel and like us. It helps. It really does. Thank you.